Good morning. So I'm totally humbled to be in this group. If they were checking ID cards associated with IQ, they would not have let me in the parking lot. I mean, this is an amazing group, so I'm really humbled. I also humbled that the Botstiber Foundation allowed me to present this technology. So as a retired policeman, it was kind of interesting. I retired over 20 years ago from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And if you've ever watched Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, that's the city. That's where I came from. I'm not sure that's something to brag from, but anyway, there it is. Over a course of different businesses that I had done, I found myself managing a 22,000-acre ranch by myself with really rough terrain. And I was actually hired not for the horses, but for the feral humans, and dealing with the movie industry, which is basically educated carnies. But I found myself with this wild feral horse population that was growing, and I knew I needed to do something. Given the terrain and how difficult it was, I wondered if it was possible to use remote technology to deliver contraceptives. So my team is pretty incredible. I put together a team. Jim Polito is one of the original founders. He's our PCB board and power engineer. Frank Druitt, IT software and communications engineer. Russell McCabe, our IT software and web face interface. Linda Stewart, director of projects and administration. I really need her for that because I'm terrible at that. And Chris Balzano, state New Mexico government relations. And usually when they're talking in the tech room, I have to duck because of all the words they're using, like voltages, amperages, and I have no idea what they're saying. Kind of like what most of everybody else is saying in here. But in any case, it's been a lot of fun. So we approached NMSU with the idea, New Mexico State University, and was accepted into 2 incubators. Both of these incubators use the NSF I-Core training model that makes you interview as many people as possible. A lot of the people in those initial interviews are in this room today, and I'm so thankful you took your time, because what you say is what we had to do. And so we interviewed advocate groups, several federal agencies, state agencies, tribal entities, private ranchers. So while almost nobody could agree on a common solution, which was one of the interesting things as I came in this very cold, was that everybody wanted something that was humane, comprehensive, cost-effective, a unique ID, solar, off-the-grid, and remote communications. So that was the common thread that went through every single group. And by the way, that's the second prototype. We're working on the third one, which we hope to be the one which will be our one we roll out to the public this next month. So when we did the human interview, that was all good, but it was the animal interview that we had to do, that if the animals didn't do what we wanted them to do, it didn't make any difference what we built. So we started with alfalfa. Namely, we started with alfalfa simply because on the ranch I manage, we have a lot of good water. And so we couldn't put it on water. They wouldn't go to that water. They would prefer the water they could drink out of a stream. So we started with alfalfa. This particular group is a first-time visit to the station. You can see there's a little apprehension, but they kind of figured out where the all-you-can-eat buffet was, and it didn't take too long. One of the obvious things we noted with the animals is that their triceps muscle was consistently in place. Now, I know that made a lot of people nervous because the rear muscle group has always been the go-to place. And for obvious reasons, that's your biggest target. And as a policeman, you're always looking for the big, shouldn't compare the two. And that wasn't in the original thing, but there I am. That's going to kill my time, Kaylee. So in thinking it through, but I knew we could make a really good, precise shot because our shot was only 7 inches at max. So knowing that I had a muscle group that I could target, so I checked with leading veterinarians, including those who specialize in RFID, to make sure it was safe, and we got the green light. In particular, our state vet has been very helpful with that. So by accident, and most innovation is found by accident, we noticed that when we were trying to deliver an RFID chip, which we thought was going to be the hardest thing to do, turned out to be the easiest thing to do. About 50% of the time, the chip was just left in place. We didn't start with animals, just so you know. We were using gel blocks. And by simply putting, and I call it the fancy weight system, it's nothing more than a screw with a couple nuts on it. It was enough inertia once the dart went forward to just simply place the chip perfectly in place. It literally goes through the antenna. So when the horse comes up, we know we're going to read that chip. And it was really exciting because that I know of. No one has routinely done this. And it worked right off the bat. I thought it was going to be really hard. Turned out to be real easy. So here's an actual RFID implant in real time. You see he got hit. He's kind of confused. I would be too. And he's going, all right, that alfalfa tastes pretty good, and bam. So within 10 seconds, we were already reading the data. What was really cool from this data is that we found that every animal read a little bit different. They all had, and I would assume this would be true in humans, there's always a little bit of different temperature change. And so we created a unique temperature profile for every single animal. What was really cool was that, in fact, for this particular horse, in a 6-month time period, we read his chip over 1,500 times. So it's very routine. We can get this going. But what we found out was that we could read temperatures and even see fevers. We had some mares that all of a sudden, man, you're seeing this peak, and you're going, well, what's going on with her? We go back to the cameras at that time, and you could see her ears are back. You know, she's a little testy. She's biting at others. Things are going on. Some animals, you can see they're kind of, you know, they looked a little bit like they're fighting off something. So it was really cool to watch the data. We think we've even seen estrus in mares. It's been kind of cool to see through some of the daily averages that, you know, so we have almost 80,000 reads out of the some 50 horses that we've hit with this incredible amount of data. I think this could be totally useful in so many other aspects. So onto the vaccination system. This was, I thought, going to be the easiest thing, turned out to be the hardest thing. We were relegated to 2 vaccines for wild feral horses, PZP or Gonacon, and because PZP is relegated by EPA label only to the rear muscle group, we had to use Gonacon. And it had its challenges. Gonacon is a real thick, cream-like viscosity, and in order to make that thing work, it took some innovation. We also had to come up with something that would deliver in 0.5 seconds or less, because we in timing with the RFID, we knew that by the time that dart hit, by the time the animal backed up, we needed that vaccine delivered, because every one of the darts is tethered to the system. It doesn't run off with the horses, which was one of the things that we, in the interview system, that we found we have to retain all the darts. And also it's a very low velocity. Quick story, my wife actually made me place my rear end in front of the system to make sure that it wouldn't hurt the horse. And I was like, do I have to? Now, thankfully, it didn't have the needle, and it didn't have the Gonacon. Maybe, but it didn't hurt. It was kind of like catching a rock in the hand. It was like no big deal, or getting hit in the butt with a rock. All right, so here's a kind of a quick video. It should start here, I think. And if it doesn't, that's fine. So it is going to start. So this kind of goes through the video of the sham tests and how we had to deliver it. Tommy Taylor with captured darts helped us immensely with both the RFID and the vaccine darts. We used a sloped barb simply because we wanted something that would go in easy, come out easy. Single side port, since the folks at CSU believe it's a single depot that makes the biggest difference. And also, it doesn't push itself out like a garden hose. You know, if you put too much pressure on that, that would actually push the dart out. This gel block test is actually not real accurate because the gel is so dense, it's nothing like the muscle material. So I knew if we could make it work, we could do it in here. The delivery time was a major issue. I must have gone through 15,000 charges to make this thing work. Again, the velocity of these darts are so slow to make that little charge go off. We had to even modify that to make it happen. So here's, you can see a mare. She's quite hungry, and she had recently had a foal. And and this is a real-time vaccination thing. You could see she got hit. She backs up. Dart falls out. It's hanging there. Poor thing, she's hungry as hell. So she's like, all right, I'm okay with that. And that was her first dose of Gonacon. She did get a booster later. And of all the horses that we hit with the Gonacon, you can see there's really no stress. I mean, they're really not even quite sure what happened. It seems to be more of a confusion, but the reward of the alfalfa is definitely something that was attractive. So, future plans. I think I could beat Kaylee. This is a bait door cover system, and what we found is we had some alpha bands that would come up and not let others in. And so this system is really cool because this is a door that works on for hurricanes, and it's for skylights and things like that, and it'll withstand guys with hammers. What we found is the horses didn't even challenge it. And in this particular case, of course, I used all the cool poster children that reacted the way I wanted to for the video. But, it wasn't a big stress-free thing, and eventually they just kind of wander off. They go away. So we can protect it from other species. We can protect it from cattle, aggressive bands, things like that. So one of the other things, we got an NSF grant a little over a year ago to work on facial recognition technology in conjunction with New Mexico State University. And that's going well. We did ask for an extension because academia doesn't work at the pace of business, I found out. And but that's okay. We're making good progress, and we hope to make a phase 2 proposal here pretty soon. We're increasing the dart capacity from 2 barrels to 4 barrels. We're probably the first semi-automatic system in the world to where you don't have to completely keep going back to the system to do it. We have to keep the temperature of the vaccines controlled. We're using all solar power, which is really cool. In fact, we're even using less power on the new system. And we're working with different baits. You can see in this picture, the one horse, we got that bait block. That about broke my back putting it in the system. It was about 200 pounds. But with just the vitamin bait blocks, they didn't spend much time. They came up, got a little bit, moved on. And so, we may experiment with that versus alfalfa. We are configuring this to water. We see the advantages, particularly where water is your trap, and they don't stay forever, which is kind of good. You get your data, send your vaccines, they're gone. So we're working on that. And the system is going to be fully automatic. We're at the point where, God, the guys I work with are amazing. If a mare comes up and we put in the system, okay, she received her first vaccination at this date, we put in a 6-month date for her, and it'll automatically send a vaccine. We won't have to watch it, touch it. It'll just do it. So the idea is to make everything comprehensive, cost-effective. That everything that we got from those interviews was important. And I am done. Did I beat her? No. Oh, dang. Thank you. I thought really. I'm humbled again. Thank you for having us.